I feel very called to become a member of the Catholic Church.
Love the Catholic Church. It's just the best place to be.
From the studios of EWTN, this is Open Line. In North America, call toll-free 1-800-585-9396. That's 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985. You can also send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
A very special edition of EWTN's Open Line Tuesday with our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan, on the heels of the March for Life in Washington, D.C., the Walk for Life West Coast in San Francisco. What was the event in L.A. called? One Life L.A. or
One Life L.A.
One Life L.A.
Yeah, they had a great turnout.
But you left L.A. essentially and went to the Walk for Life West Coast. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, okay.
1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. If you've got a question or a comment for Barbara McGuigan, 1-800-585-9396. If you're outside the United States and Canada, your number is 1-205-271-2985. That's 1-205-271-2985. Or you can send us an email, openline@ewtn.com. I'm Jack Williams. Michael McCall produces the program, and your call screener is Mr. Matt Gubensky. Please keep Elena Rodriguez in your prayers. We think she's going to make it home this evening, and hopefully we will have Elena back with us tomorrow for Open Line Wednesday. Barbara, you left, as I said, you left Los Angeles and went up to San Francisco for the Walk for Life West Coast. But before we get to that, I think you wanted to encourage any of our listeners who were involved in any of the marches or walks, whether it be in their local area or one of the big three that we talked about, to call us and give us their experiences.
Oh, I thought that would be great because more people walked and marched than we know, and also I would love to know the ones who went to the March for Life because that took a lot of courage to do that. And I would like to know any or hear from any of those who had the Mass on the snow altar on the Philly Turnpike, right? I mean, that is some of those people, Jack, were stranded for 30 hours during the blizzard. Did you know that?
I did know that because my old stomping grounds, Des Moines, Iowa, Dowling Catholic High School in West Des Moines, Iowa, part of that group that was huddled around the snow altar. And I know we were getting, we're still on a lot of email lists from those good folks, and we were getting all sorts of prayer requests, and it was getting a little, they were kind of getting up against it before they actually got out of there. They were starting to getting close to being running out of gas, so they couldn't keep the buses warm anymore, and obviously out of food, and so it was a little more severe situation than maybe the ultimate outcome in the story of the Mass was certainly a beautiful one, but I think it might have taken a little divine intervention to get them out of there just in the nick of time.
Really? Well, so there were 500 people at that Mass?
Yeah.
So that would mean 500 were stranded? I mean, it's the first number I had heard to see how many were actually involved in that. But, just to think how cold it was. And, I mean, have they had a blizzard like that? Have we ever had a blizzard quite like that? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. My weather history is failing me right now. But
I'm not good at that
we've
weather
had some substantial snows that have surrounded the March for Life in the past. And
absolutely, I've been there. I've been there for those, but never did we have a blizzard. No, that was the thing. Well, it was a whole different ballgame at the Walk for Life in San Francisco. I was at One Life LA last year, and then we went up for the walk this year.
Last year was the first year for that, right?
For the Walk for Life West Coast? Or no, One Life LA. Yes, it was. Or was it 2 years ago? No, I think it was last year. It could have been 2 years. This could have been the second one or the third one.
I think this was the second one, I think. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
anyway,
I think so.
Anyway, you went to San Francisco.
I went to San Francisco, and the local mainstream media estimated between 50 and 55,000 people. That's a lot of people to come to the city. And it was, especially because out here we didn't have a blizzard, of course, but the El Nino weather system has been really something. Lots and lots of rain. And so, it was, but boy, it was a lively walk, as you can imagine, in the city. We had a wonderful time. It was about 2 miles long, and, of course, down Market Street. And, you bring out some of the people that the protesters, right? And it's just so sad. But what I felt so sorry for, there were a few, I think it only came down to 3 shouting women who were half dressed. And I suppose they were half dressed because some of these people, these young kids that have never been formed spiritually, they've never been formed. And so they don't know how to argue. They don't know how to use reason and knowledge and understanding to argue, so they take their clothes off. I mean, give me a break. It's they have emotion and shock value. That's all they have. So it's pitiful. It's pitiful. And so we had 3 gals like that. This was at actually where the speakers were set up. And of course, a lot of the little nuns were there. Because it was fairly chilly, the nuns had the long black cloaks on, the Dominican nuns, and the Sisters for Life, I think their cloaks were like long blue cloaks. But so I'm not sure which group of nuns it was, but they thought the girls were going to freeze to death, so they wrapped their cloaks around the girls that didn't have their clothes on. It's pretty nice, huh? Or their tops. I shouldn't say clothes in general, but their tops. So they didn't want them to freeze to death. So, and then of course we're walking along and we're with our 4 little boys, 2, 4, 6, 8, right? Who do you appreciate, Jack? And so we tried to walk kind of in the center so they wouldn't be up against some of these people on the fringes, literally. And so there were women holding up coat hangers, and I'm thinking, oh, ladies, come on. This went out with high-button shoes. I mean, really, you got to get something better going on for yourselves. But then again, it's pitiful. So we prayed, and it was some kind of patriarchy group. I was told they were communists. They were yelling obscenities and things like that. So we started singing Ave, Ave, Ave Maria. And when you get a crowd like this singing, we just out sung them. We didn't shout back.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
So we'd love to hear what your experiences were
Yes.
on this weekend, this past weekend, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Give us a call at 1-800-585-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. Open line Tuesday with our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan.
From the archives, this is the wisdom of Mother Angelica.
It's like the brides, 10 were very, very fervent, and they had oil in their lamp, and they had extra oil. Well, here were 10 that didn't. They had oil in their lamps, but no extra oil. Now the bridegroom is coming, and those who had just the oil in their lamp all went out. And they said, give me some of your oil. And they said, hey, we can't, lest we too ran out. The first thought in your mind is, they're uncharitable. Why didn't they share? I know what you're thinking. I thought the same thing. But see, when we die, my friends, when the bridegroom calls you and me, there's no more time to get oil. You've had 5 years, 10 years, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. You got to repent. You got to go ahead of time and put oil in that lamp.
For more about Mother Angelica, visit EWTNRC.com.
This is Bishop John Brungart of the Diocese of Dodge City.
This is Colin Donovan, Vice President for Theology.
This is Father Larry Richards, host of Open Line Thursday. Thanks for listening to EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
EWTN radio programming is heard on great stations around the United States, like 88.7 FM in Morganfield, Kentucky, 106.7 FM in St. Joseph, Missouri, and 1420 AM in Coatesville, Pennsylvania. To the phones we go. We want to hear your stories about the March for Life or the Walk for Life West Coast, or something that went on in your neck of the woods, 1-800-585-9396. Toll free anywhere in North America, 1-800-585-9396. Carmen had called from Baton Rouge. She couldn't hold on. Carmen, call us back. We want to hear your story about the March for Life. Our leadoff hitter today will be Pat from Avon Lake, Ohio, listening on Living Bread Radio, AM 1060. Pat, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Pat.
Hi, Barbara. Well, my son Michael and I drove down from Cleveland to Washington on Thursday evening. No problems with the weather.
Great.
We stayed at my son's house in Arlington, my son Patrick's house. We got to the march, and the snow started falling in the afternoon just before we started marching, and it really started to hit after the march was over, and we were at a reception by Congressman Jordan and Senator Portman in the Rayburn building, and we saw it coming down heavy. We stayed at my son Patrick's house over the weekend. We got snowed in, but we didn't plan on coming home till Sunday anyway. The Bishop of Arlington, Virginia, had suspended the Sunday obligation.
Yes,
so
saw
people
that.
didn't have to go to Mass. But Saturday evening, we walked a mile and a half through the blizzard, the three of us, and there were 16 people at Mass at St. James Church in Arlington. There were 3 older women, 2 middle-aged men, and including my sons, 10 young men under the age of 25, and myself.
Wow. So you had a great time. You weren't really affected by the snow too much. It was probably fun just being with your son in Arlington, right?
It was fun, but there were 19 inches of snow that came from Friday into Saturday.
I know
dug
it.
out the car, and they had to dig it out again the next day. But
Yes.
going through the blizzard winds, the mile and a half to Mass, it seemed like more than a mile and a half, but it was.
Wow.
But it wasn't a major problem. But I was proud to walk in and see that ahead of us there are these 8 young men that were there,
Yes.
along with the others.
Beautiful thing, beautiful. My daughter lives there with my son-in-law and her 4 kids, and they were completely told not to come out the door. You know, they couldn't get out anyway. The cars were completely buried, and streets weren't plowed or anything like that. So, oh my goodness. But you know what? Sometimes I think, what a gift from God to just be snowed in sometimes. What do you think?
Amen.
I know. I was thinking to myself, that would be just nice, just to be able to do what you want to do, huh? So
and not have to go anywhere because you can't.
And not have to go anywhere. That's right. Oh, Pat. Well, thank you so much for calling. Good man. Good story. I'm glad you had a good experience.
Yeah, thanks, Barbara.
You're welcome.
1-800-585-9396, our toll-free number. We want to hear your experiences at the March for Life or the Walk for Life West Coast, or maybe your experience of the TV coverage that you saw here on EWTN. 1-800-585-9396. Gene is in Cincinnati, Ohio, listening on Sacred Heart Radio, AM 740. Gene, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Gene.
Hi, how are you? Thanks
couldn't
for sharing
be better.
about your granddaughter. I'm so grateful to hear that she's doing better, and we've been praying for her, so thanks for the update on her.
Listen, thank you. What can I do for you?
Well, you know, I'm so excited to hear about the walk, the March for Life, and that Mass. I would love to have been there, but what's really on my heart is I know you had David DeLayden on, and, you know, and I was so grateful to be able to ask him a question about the elections when you have people saying, well, you know, you need to vote for somebody who's going to help the poor and all this. And he was so gracious to answer that. What are you doing voting? But now with him, you know, being indicted, gosh, I just wanted to say, I don't know if people are aware that there's we call it a petition that you can sign on LifeSite News.
Right, right.
To help him.
LifeNews.com, I think, also has one. Yeah, well, they're LifeSite News.
Oh, and Life News does also?
Yeah, they all get the petitions going. But, yes, either one could be. LifeNews.com and LifeSiteNews.com are both doing petitions. And hopefully it would do some good. But just in case the folks listening are not aware, a Texas grand jury has ignored the videos exposing a Houston-based Planned Parenthood abortion clinic caught selling aborted baby body parts. And what have they done? They've ignored what the Planned Parenthood has been doing and instead indicted the man behind producing the expose videos who is David Daleiden. And when that was breaking yesterday, I just thought, oh, that's so typical. Wouldn't you just understand that that's the way it was going to work? But, my first question was, because I'm not a lawyer, is can a grand jury indictment be appealed? So last night I'm working on this. I had to have the answer, and I found that a grand jury proceeding is not a judicial proceeding, so it cannot be appealed. But similarly, because it is not a judicial proceeding, there is nothing that prevents a prosecutor from sending the case back to a new grand jury. Did you know that, Jack? Were you aware of that?
I did.
Awesome. So, he has the best people working for him. Katie Short at Life Legal and really Tom Brascia. He has the best pro-life working for him. Alliance for Defending Freedom ADF, they're working on this with him as well. So we know he's in good hands because they want to put him away, as I said, for a long time. This can be what they indicted him on was a felony charge of tampering with a governmental record. They don't say what the record was, and a misdemeanor count related to purchasing human organs. So it's like they're kind of pretending like he was trying to procure the organs, really, literally. And this is what I'm going, what? I mean, this is craziness, don't you think?
Let me read the statement from the Center for Medical Progress on the Harris County announcement.
Yes, okay.
The Center for Medical Progress uses the same undercover techniques that investigative journalists have used for decades in exercising our First Amendment rights to freedom of speech and the press, and follows all applicable laws. We respect the process of the Harris County District Attorney and note that buying fetal tissue requires a seller as well. Planned Parenthood still cannot deny the admissions from their leadership about fetal organ sales captured on video for all the world to see. And I don't know the inner machinations of this, Barbara, but it should probably be pointed out that I don't know if Planned Parenthood has any allegations before this particular grand jury or not, but I know it does have some claims before other grand juries. And this may have come out before anything you hear about Planned Parenthood, because this may have been just a less taxing process when you consider everything that is piled up against Planned Parenthood. It just may take longer for this or another grand jury to sift through what has to be the mountain of evidence at this point. So I don't think.
But I thought that's what a grand jury is supposed to do before they come out with an indictment, to sift through every single bit of information, right?
But what I'm saying is that I don't know if there are I don't know if there's any charges against Planned Parenthood in front of the Harris County grand jury. They may have only had this. I don't know if that's the case or not, but. There could be other grand juries in other parts of the country that are.
Oh, there are all kinds of. Yeah.
And it may take them longer if the Harris County only had this in front of them. That could be the only reason that it came out before anything else may have come out. My point is that this doesn't mean Planned Parenthood's off the hook, is what I'm getting at.
But that's what I get the paper today and it says, Texas grand jury clears Planned Parenthood of wrongdoing. I mean, that's all people have to see. Abortion opponents indicted for video. And I'm thinking, oh, goodness. But what? God is in control. I mean, this is how it's got to go to continue the whole expose, because he still has more videos to release.
Thanks, Gene, for that.
Yep. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Gene.
Thanks, Gene. Appreciate the phone call there in Cincinnati. Here you go, Barbara. You asked, and you shall now be rewarded. Mandy in Des Moines, Iowa is on the phone, and Mandy was at the Turnpike Mass. Yay! Mandy, you're on with Barbara.
Hi, Mandy. Hello. What's it like to be at Mass on a snow altar?
It was incredible.
I can imagine. Tell me about it.
Well, we got stuck about 9:17 the night before, and every person on our bus, we went to sleep, and every person on our bus dreamed that we were moving And so when we woke up, we were all extra special disappointed.
Oh, I
that
can
we were
imagine.
Still stuck there.
And were there actually 500 people? That's what I read at the Mass.
Oh, at that Mass, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I actually went, I had a 3.5-month-old baby with me.
Oh, right. You're the lady that had the baby, and you had 2 middle school kids, too, right?
That's me, yep.
Yes, I read about you. Well, good. And how did the baby fare? I was just sick at heart when I heard there was a baby involved in this.
Oh, he was the mascot of our bus. and he kept everybody in good spirits because he had all of his needs were being met, and so he was just happy-go-lucky the whole time. He had no idea that we were stuck on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. He just knew that he was in his mama's arms, and he was happy to be there. So.
And you're nursing him probably, right?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Water and food.
Sure. But you're the one that had to be fed properly and everything. But I thought he's probably nursing. He will be fine. But goodness.
It was crazy because we actually had a kid on our bus that wasn't feeling the greatest after the march, and we had to kind of get out of Dodge, trying to beat the weather.
Yes.
And so he wasn't feeling the greatest, and when we made our stop about a half an hour before we got stopped on the turnpike, the chaperones on the bus were like, you know what, we're going to buy some cases of water. We want to make sure all these kids have enough water.
Yes.
And so we had a couple cases of water, and I bought a gallon of water just because I was like, I want to make sure I'm hydrated. So when we stopped, it was like we were already prepared. We were ready. And we had a full tank of gas, and we had the car next to us. They came and used our bathroom, and
wow!
It was kind of a grace for the other people, I think, that were stopped along the turnpike, that there were so many buses because they had it somewhere they could go and get warm and use the restroom if they needed to.
Well, so you weren't in a bus; you were in your own car, huh? Or was it a camper of some sort?
We were in a bus.
You were in a bus. Okay.
We were in a bus.
So these buses all had bathrooms then? Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Well, were you really stranded for 30 hours? I read that as well.
Some people were. We were at 23. I was in contact on the March for Life app with someone from McGuigan, and they didn't get out until 3:15 in the morning. And so we were lucky. We got out around 8-something.
My goodness.
In the evening. So it was 23 hours for us but for them, they were going on 30.
Oh, my goodness. And how did all the younger ones, the pro-life students, how did they do? I mean, they snowball fights galore, I bet.
You know, it was tough in the morning, like 9 o'clock in the morning when it's really kind of settling in. You still have no idea. It was. You start to feel that despair kind of clouding in, and but it didn't last very long. It really was. When word started getting around, I ended up doing a walk up and down. There was a half mile that I handed the baby to one of the other chaperones who was happy to hold a baby. And I went for a walk and just met the people from the different buses. And just from the people that I talked to, I found out from different places that how many buses were in your group, how many are stuck, and I found out that just the ones that I know of, there were 44 buses in that pile up.
My goodness, 44. Jack, did you know it was that buses. Many?
There were a lot.
I had no idea.
And that's just the ones that I know about, that I have firsthand, this is how many were in our group, this is how many were in our group. We know that they're stuck. I'm not even guessing about how many more there might have been. But once we were let go, once we were free and we were driving back by all of the other buses, we counted 24 buses that were still stuck. So I don't know how many were ahead of us, but there were 24 that were still stuck after we.
Oh my goodness! Well, I'm sure they're on the way now.
It was really just our quarter half mile. It doesn't take very many buses before you have 500 people.
Wow. Oh, listen, I'm so glad you called, Mandy. And it's so funny that you made the news. What an experience. You can write this in his baby book, yeah?
No kidding.
God bless you, dear heart.
Thanks, Mandy. Appreciate
Thank
the
you.
phone call. 1-800-585-9396. We want to hear your experience on the March for Life or the Walk for Life West Coast, or maybe you went to One Life LA. We'd love to hear from you, too. 1-800-585-9396. Toll free anywhere in the United States and Canada. 1-800-585-9396. Open Line Tuesday with our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan.
Check out EWTN's official YouTube channel.
Just follow the link on our homepage at EWTN.com or go to YouTube.com/EWTN.
Watch EWTN's live shows or today's homily from the Daily Mass.
Click the upload button to see our most recent clips.
You can also find all of EWTN YouTube content by clicking the playlist button.
It's all on the official EWTN YouTube channel at YouTube.com/EWTN.
Visit today.
Imagine waking up, grabbing your morning coffee, and being told that an army was surrounding your house. That happened to Elisha the prophet, minus the coffee. A king had sent an army to surround his town and capture him, but he never lost his confidence. When his servant panicked, Elisha prayed, "Open his eyes, Lord, so that he may see." His servant looked up and saw the hills around Elisha filled with horses and chariots of fire. Did you know that every Catholic is anointed as a prophet at baptism? And being a prophet means that sometimes people are going to attack you for sharing the truth, even if you do it lovingly. When that happens to you, remember there's an army of angels and saints cheering you on, Christians around the world walking with you, and above all, the God of the universe is on your side. Jesus said, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." This is Chris Stefanik from RealLifeCatholic.com on EWTN Radio.
I invite people to listen to Women of Grace Live if they're interested in being informed, if they're interested in being inspired, if they're interested in being encouraged in their life of faith. I encourage people to listen to Women of Grace Live because we hear from a wide assortment of people whose questions oftentimes are the very questions that are going on. I'm Janet Benkovic, inviting you to join me weekday mornings at 11 Eastern for Women of Grace on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
Tonight on Mother Angelica Live Classics, Mother talks about the dreams of St. Don Bosco. That's 8 Eastern tonight on EWTN Television. And tomorrow night on EWTN Live, Father Mitch welcomes Deacon Sabatino Carnazzo. He's the founder and director of the Institute of Catholic Culture. And that's tomorrow night, 8 Eastern on EWTN Television. Back to the phones we go. Katie's in Atlanta, Georgia, listening on EWTN.com. Katie, thanks for holding. You're on with Barbara.
Hi, Katie.
Hi, Barbara. How are you?
Great, thanks. Did you go to the march?
I did, and it's so uplifting and it's so exciting. I have marched in Atlanta for 30 years, and I always wanted to go to D.C. And 3 years ago, I went for the first time, and it's just there's so many people, so many young people.
Oh, don't you love that? It's just like a shot in the arm to see all these kids coming up to the pro-life.
It's the most awesome thing. And so I went with a group this year from out of St. Michael the Archangel Church in Woodstock.
Wonderful.
And it was a mixed group. We had a cancer survivor and her two sisters and a man who'd had open heart surgery and an older couple, but we had 15 teenagers and young adults. And so it was just a great group.
Oh.
And we did the conference on Thursday, the conference that they have, with all the speakers, and everyone was better than the next one.
Oh,
and then we did the Mass at the Basilica, and that just takes your breath away. And then we got up real early the next morning. We were in for a penny, in for a pound. We got up the next morning. We went to the youth rally and Mass at the National Guard Armory.
Right.
And that was wonderful. And the Archbishop made the comment, there were roses on the altar, And he said it was just like Our Lady of Guadalupe, that there were roses in the snow, because, the roses are quite simple, and that gave me goosebumps.
Oh, and that gives me goosebumps, because it was in the dead of winter when he got those.
There was snow, and there was that rose, and it's just Our Lady goes before us. But and we did, there was some debate on whether we should go to the march, because they were predicting the snow to start in the afternoon. We're responsible for the kids and all, so there was some serious concern, but we figured, we were going to hit the snow one way or the other, so we were going to do the march. We just could feel God going before us.
Oh,
and so we went to the march,
testimony.
And the snow started coming down just as we started marching.
Yeah.
And by the time we got up to by the Capitol and by the Supreme Court buildings, it was really, really coming down good. And our bus driver found a way up to us, and we found him, and we got on. We got about an hour out of town, and we had to pull over. And again, it was all just like the Lord's hand was all in it, because we needed 12 rooms, and there were 12 rooms in the hotel. So
isn't that something?
We stayed for 2 nights. We stayed from Friday afternoon. We got away Sunday morning. We got home. And by the time we got down to Atlanta, there wasn't even any snow. So the kids loved it.
Oh, I bet they did. I just know as a teenager, I would have been in my glory. I just think it would have been an exciting thing. Well, Katie, thank you for calling about it. It just sounds great. I'm glad you were there. God bless you.
Thank you. I have to say, if anybody is, thinks, I couldn't do it, or, it's just too much, it isn't. It's just so exciting, and it's so well run. It's just do it. You will never regret it. So.
Exactly. Wasn't that a slogan? Just do it. The Nike shirt.
Thank you, Barbara.
God bless you. Thank you. Bye now.
1-800-585-9396. We want to hear your March for Life or Walk for Life West Coast stories. Next up is Neil in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, listening on Oklahoma Catholic Broadcasting. Neil, you're on with Barbara.
Hi, Neil.
Bye, Barbara. How are you?
I'm good. How about you, good man?
Well, good. Hey, I just read something on the internet that you may be interested in. One of the assistant district attorneys down there at Harrison County, Texas.
Yep,
in reference to that indictment.
Yep.
She sits on the board of directors of Planned Parenthood.
I read that. And you just wonder.
That should get that case at least dismissed and another grand jury convened.
Ooh, that makes good sense. Yes, that makes really good sense. She could have recused herself, right? And gotten off of there. Yeah.
No doubt about it. She should have recused herself.
Very good point. Yes, I do have that. And really, when you consider that Planned Parenthood could be breaking the federal law, right, the Born Alive Infants Protection Act, the way some of those doctors that David interviewed, the Planned Parenthood abortionist doctors, they were always talking about getting fully intact babies, that they could then, sell to STEM Express or whatever ones they could. The one that was talking about how she would, the crunch part where she could crunch up here and crunch down there so the organ would be fully intact. Please. But I can't, like I'm trying to cool my jets, because Jack said, maybe that's all the grand jury in Harris County had to look at. I find that so hard.
Well, okay, but if she's sitting on the board of directors of Planned Parenthood, she present a biased case.
Absolutely. You are spot on. Absolutely. Good point. Thanks for calling with that.
All right. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye now.
To Midland, Texas, we head now. Steve is in Midland, listening on Guadalupe Radio, AM 1150. Steve, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi. What you got?
We went to the, down here in Texas, we have one in Austin. And we're calling it the Swagger for Life.
I love it. That's cute. How many did you get to come out to swag with their swag?
Well, there were 53 swaggers that caught a coach out of Midland, plus there were some other folks that met up with us. But there were tens of thousands easily there in Austin, and just a few paid protesters, for the other side, and they were horrible. You know,
the protest. Oh, listen here, but you know what? I couldn't get over in the city the protesters from this patriarchy group. I should find the name somewhere, but they were all codgers, and they were just yelling the nastiest things at us. And I'm going, you know what? Go home and get in your Willy Wonka bed. You know, remember Willy Wonka? They had the grandmas and grandpas in their beds, because this was just that was just plain old nastiness. You know, I couldn't figure it out. And then, of course, some of the young ones, you expect that. You know, you just gotta. But then, you know, remember the group Femen, Femen. Do you know that group? They're over in Europe, and these little gals have, you know, disrobed and come in when the Archbishop, and they're saying Mass even. And but do you know that one of the organizers of Femen, I'm pretty positive she was an organizer, she has recently converted. She's converted.
Praise be Jesus.
No kidding. So you have to just constantly look at them with love in your heart. And that's what all the little gals with the coat hangers, I wasn't pointing my fingers, shaking my head. You know, if anything, we just would be singing Aves, and that would be it. But sometimes I even just looked at them with like a compassionate, it was my most compassionate look I could come up with. Because you got to feel sorry for them. You got to feel pity for these poor souls. You really do. They've never experienced the noble art of being formed in the faith. And that is a pity. To be pitied, yeah?
Yeah, they're begging for a little holy water to come their way.
That's it. Now, that would have been a good idea. I wonder what they would have thought about that if we had sprinkled them with holy water. Ooh, we probably would have been arrested.
All right, Steve, thanks so much for that phone call there in Midland, Texas. 1-800-585-9396 is our toll-free number. We want to hear about your experiences this past weekend, whether it was at the Walk for Life West Coast, One Life LA, the March for Life in Washington, D.C., or maybe a local event in your area. 1-800-585-9396, Open Line Tuesday.
This is Al Cresta, host of Cresta in the Afternoon, and Cresta in the Afternoon looks at all of life through the lens of Scripture and the teaching of the Catholic Church. Church teaching is the light by which we view the world, and so we'll explore everything, from abortion to Hollywood, and from the First Amendment to the United Nations, and everything in between. Following St. Paul, we're seeking transformation through the renewing of our minds. So that's Cresta in the Afternoon with me, Al Cresta, weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Hey, Catholic high school and college filmmakers. Want to get your work seen in over 250 million homes around the world? Then enter the Cool to be Catholic commercial contest. We're looking for original 30 and 60-second spots that focus on Catholic themes. 3 grand prize winners will get an all-expense-paid trip to the EWTN studios in Birmingham, Alabama, and a guest appearance on Life on the Rock. To find out more and to enter, go to EWTN.com/cool2becatholic.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
We've still got plenty of time for your phone calls at 1-800-585-9396. Toll free anywhere in North America, 1-800-585-9396. And Barbara, I understand you have found out what the grand jury was investigating.
Yes, I did. It said, we were called upon to investigate allegations of criminal conduct by Planned Parenthood Gulf Coast. This is Devin Anderson, who was appointed to her position by Governor Rick Perry in 2013 after her husband's death. And she said she supported the grand jury decision. But here's the thing. She said, as I stated at the outset of this investigation, we must go where the evidence leads us. All the evidence uncovered in the course of this investigation was presented to the grand jury. I respect their decision on this difficult case. What? You mean they never heard about the fact that the director of research for Planned Parenthood Gulf Coast, Melissa Farrell, seemingly admitting to multiple felonies and ethics violations, including making a profit from human organ trafficking and altering the abortion process unnecessarily in order to get, quote, the best specimens? You mean they never investigated that? You mean they never heard this gal, Melissa Farrell, say, if we alter our process and we are able to obtain intact fetal cadavers, this is in the 5th CMP video, which also featured the dissection of a 20-week-old aborted baby inside its Houston abortion facility. She said, we bake that into our contract. If we are able to obtain intact fetal cadavers and our protocol, that we deviate from our standard of care in order to do that. You mean they never saw that? This is a political hit, Jack. This is a fix, a political fix, trying to put David Daleiden away and the pro-life movement in general, I believe.
Well, Barbara, you talked about how desperate the protesters were at the Walk for Life West Coast. You've got kind of a sad story of where this can lead from Australia.
Oh, my goodness. Yes. I mean, talk about these poor little souls that seem to feel like they need to disrobe in order to make a point. Making a point in Australia, okay? We have a healthy couple in Australia kill themselves in an assisted suicide because they didn't want to grow old. I'm not making this up. People keep pretending that assisted suicide and euthanasia are about terminal illness. I mean, that's what they're always pitching. You're going to suffer. Why do we want these poor souls to suffer? And that's a ploy. That's a plot to get people to accept the premise that killing is an acceptable answer to human suffering. I mean, we all know that. That's how it all started. But then, after that, if you really start to reason, logic will take over. Once a population starts to accept the overarching premise, the limitations such as terminal illness melt away. And then you see, who was that little gal, Maynard, Brittany Maynard, remember? She just wanted to make sure she had a certain brain cancer, that she was never going to suffer. She wanted to make the choice when she would die. God love her. I mean, it's only because of where she was coming from, what her programming was, but here in Australia, I mean, it's not funny, I'm not laughing at it, but I can't believe it. A healthy elderly couple is praised in a journal called Starts at 60 for committing joint assisted suicide before becoming ill. And it turns out that their kids, what did they have, 3 or 4 children? They came over for a goodbye gathering. Can you imagine?
No.
And then they left, knowing that their parents would then kill themselves. I mean, how sad is this? And so it's what happens when you have an assisted suicide culture. What is happening to this world? We're going down the dumper. You know that saying, where are we all going and why are we in this handbasket? Look what we are embracing. It's so wrong, so against, such a slap in God's face.
Back to the phones we go. Bob is in the great state of Iowa. Bob, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hi, Bob.
Yeah, hi there. I got a couple general questions on this indictment that they're trying to do. When you pick a grand jury, when you pick a jury, you get the defense and the prosecution getting to pick who's going to attend. But when they pick a grand jury, there's no only one side to that, right? They just say, here's a criminal act that they think happened, and do you have any bias, towards or against abortion? I'm just kind of curious.
I think you're right. I think you're right. It's not like picking a regular jury. I read last night that the grand jury is like between 19 to 23 people. And I don't think they screen them in any way as to what their positions are on things like this. But of course, if you have the one that is, on Planned Parenthood's board, a board member for Planned Parenthood, he works as a prosecutor in the district attorney's office, and he was a member of this grand jury. So
that'll be brought up. But if they go to jury trial, though, then the defense, which is us, would be able to pick and choose, right? Not like they were unable to do with the grand jury, right? So we might get a more fair balance.
I think you're right, but it even says that we could pick another grand jury. We could send this back. It's what I read last night. We can send this case back to a new grand jury. Our prosecutor could. Because it's not a legal proceeding, a judicial proceeding. Sorry.
They don't get to pick this grand jury if they went with another grand jury, right?
I don't know.
The people on it. Okay.
Yes, I don't know that for a fact. I do not know that for a fact. But I would imagine that could be discriminatory for a grand jury if they said, well, if you're not pro-choice, then we won't have you on here.
Yeah, but the Republican governor of Texas is supporting this indictment. Did you read that? It's unbelievable.
Well, is he? No, I haven't read that yet. Greg Abbott, you're talking about? The governor?
I was reading on Washington. I was on the Washington Post blog earlier, and I thought, man, that doesn't sound right. But then I rushed out. I got to pick up my granddaughter, so I'm not sure. Maybe somebody can back me up on that. But who's going to? Do you know who the defense attorney's going to be? Is it Jay? Is Jay going to take it, or does
Jay
anybody
Sekulow?
know?
I do not know about that. I mean, I doubt. You mean for David DeLayden for CMP?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well, we've got Life Legal, Katie Short. We've got her whole team. We've got Tom Breka.
We need somebody good. We need a dynamic.
Oh,
person
listen.
to make it happen.
You know, God's not going to let this go down. Evil never wins. It always looks like it's going to win, but it never wins in the outcome. It never wins. You know, what do they say? Something about the ninth inning. But sometimes you lose in the ninth. You can go on winning, but you lose in the ninth. Well, hello. They're going to get their ninth inning, and we are going to get it too. I mean, we're going to have to.
Praise the Lord on that.
Yeah, amen. God is the deliverer. Boy, did you ever go to a Matt Maher concert?
Yeah.
Oh, please. Oh, really? Don't you? Okay. Well, we went to a Matt Maher concert on Sunday evening, just a couple days ago, and he has a song called God is My Deliverer. If I had a voice and didn't have nodules on my vocal cords, I'd belt that out for you right now and of course I belt it out anyway, Jack, as you can imagine. But everyone sings. They put the words up and everyone sings every song. But God is my deliverer. He is not going to let this go down the way they want it to at Planned Parenthood. You better know it. Thank you for calling so much, Bob.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate the phone call. Still time for your calls at 1-800-585-9396. Toll free anywhere in North America. 1-800-585-9396. If you're outside the United States and Canada, your number is 1-205-271-2985. Mario is in El Paso, Texas, listening on Sirius XM Channel 130. Mario, you're on with Barbara McGuigan.
Hey, Mario. Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm great, and you're an attorney, right, Mario? We need you right now.
Yes, I am.
Good.
Well, let me
help
tell
us.
You, I was listening to the conversation about, this grand jury indictment.
Yeah.
And one of the things about it is that grand jury indictment is really nothing. I mean, it's got zero probative value. We have an old saying here in Texas among us criminal defense lawyers that the district attorney can indict a ham sandwich if that's what they wanted to do.
You know who said that? Judge Napolitano said that. Yes, okay. So because it's not, a grand jury proceeding is not a judicial proceeding, is what I found out last night.
That is correct. It is a complete ex parte proceeding. For example, here in Texas, if you were charged with a misdemeanor offense, that is generally an offense that could land you in jail, in a county jail for less than a year, and a $4,000 fine. You wouldn't even go to a grand jury generally. The DA would just write up the charges and file it. It's called a complaint. They would just file a complaint. Now, if it's a more serious offense, an indictment is required. But what it is, it's just a group of people that's selected, and they meet in secret, and the DA goes in and says, this is what happened, and this is the law that was violated, and they may or may not present evidence, and just based on the word of the prosecutor, they can indict. It's really that simple. There's no real investigatory process that takes place. And so what has happened here, and what I've gleaned from the news reports of it, is that a very politically motivated prosecutor went to a grand jury to get cover to bring this forward. But I would suggest that when all is said and done and the not guilty verdicts come out, that the individuals being prosecuted could then seek to have a malicious prosecution lawsuit filed in this case, and they probably would be in a good position to collect because it's clearly political.
Exactly. That's what I said earlier. It's a political fix. It's a political hit. And I'm so thankful that you called with this because I was so praying for an attorney. So there you are. But here's the thing. Okay, here's the thing. So now when they do put this grand jury together, you say they don't do any investigating? Are you talking about of the people that is part of the grand jury?
Right. Yeah, they don't really, well, they don't do either. They don't investigate who the people, it's just whether they're qualified or not to sit on a grand jury. If you're a convicted felon, you may not be able to sit on a grand jury. Oh, I see that way.
But they don't ask you your position. They don't ask if you're pro-life or pro-choice because you could sway the whole.
Never happens.
Oh, brother.
Yeah, and it's just the DA saying, I want this indictment because of these reasons. And most people understand. They come in and they present themselves as we're the legal experts, and you need to do this. And they will, and people generally will go along with anything the district attorney says. And in this case, that's exactly what happened.
What happened? Okay.
While the grand juries do have investigatory powers, I mean, if they wanted to subpoena somebody to testify in front of them to gather evidence, they could do it. That is the exception rather than the rule. And there's no indication here that the grand jury did any kind of investigation.
Well, then what is this deal that their governor, Greg Abbott, because he's pro-life, he said earlier in the week that the state would further defund the abortion business, that they had other investigations going on that in Texas that they would continue to do. So in other words, we don't need to get all nervous or excited about this grand jury indictment.
I don't think so. I think Texas is a pro-life state.
Yes, it is.
It's certainly pro-life.
Yes.
And, it's awful to see what's going on, but these district attorneys are independently elected from different areas of the state.
Gotcha.
And so in Houston, there's no doubt, because Houston, especially in the urban area, it's heavily Democratic Party controlled, and there's no doubt that district attorney's office holds a very leftist view of things.
Yeah,
and
there you go.
Decided to do this.
Yep, there you go. Great. Oh, Mario, you're an answer to prayer. Thank you so much for calling today, good man. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Mario, for that phone call. And Barbara, thank you for being so gracious as you always are with your time.
Oh, and you too, Jack. Thank you.
It sounds like you need a nap after your weekend's activities.
Oh, my goodness. I feel like I've been hit by a bus. Not stranded in a storm, but hit by one.
Well, get rested up because we're going to do it again next week.
Yes,
same time, same channel.
All righty.
Our thanks on behalf of our host, Barbara McGuigan, our producer, Michael McCall, call screener, Matt Kubinski. I'm Jack Williams, thanking you for taking some time out of your day to join us here on Open Line Tuesday with our pro-life warrior, Barbara McGuigan. Back at it tomorrow. Father Mitch is in the house.